see a bunch of footage in New York and here in New Zealand. And during the presentation, we talked about designing the Alita character. And I think you mentioned there was something like 5,000 iterations to perfect the design and level of detail. Can you talk about, once you design the character, the most challenging part of realizing the character on screen?
I think once you have a design that works and that fits into the manga and really brings it to life, the biggest challenge from that point is the performance, right? It's the bringing Rosa into Alita. And one of those challenges is, like, early on we got a design that we liked and she looked pretty good, and then we started getting motion on it and it was like, it's not translating. It's just not working the way we want it to. She looks good, but she doesn't look Rosa. The performance isn't translating. Mm-hmm. So we actually found that once we actually took Rosa's mouth, like perfectly Rosa's mouth, put it onto Alita. And then we started realizing, okay, well, her mouth is working great now. And then we took her eyes, and then we took her eyebrows, and then we took her eyelashes, like down to the eyelash. And we put those onto Alita, and it didn't change the design very much because their eyes didn't change size, they didn't change shape that much, but it brought Rosa into the character. And Rosa was never cast for the look, right? She was never cast to look like Alita in any way, but because she's so expressive with her face, bringing those extra subtleties to the Alita design actually help us to just bring Alita to life, that extra little bit we needed to bring her to the point where we fell in love with her.
And you're working with many other non-human characters as well, of different shapes and sizes and weapons and abilities. Can you talk about the challenge in bringing those characters to life together, especially in things like action sequences?
Yeah, like the motorball sequence, right? It's got all these crazy characters that a lot of them are pulled straight from the manga. And some of them look really cool in the manga, but once you try to move them, they just don't work. So it's always a challenge to take that design and put it into an animation and a motion that you can actually work with, and that you can get a cool design or cool poses, so that you can feel the same thing, but actually have it work. And we went into a lot of detail with a lot of our characters, wheel sizes, moving them around, allowing them to have head movement, because we actually performance captured all of the motorballers on stage at the starting line and all those locations doing all their motions. Now, some of them did things they couldn't do, like Stinger was scratching his nose, but his arms are giant blades with chainsaws, right? So if we put that scene in, he'd gash his face out. We can't do things like that. But just getting the little extra motion you get from all those characters onto the CG characters just helps to bring all of those to life.
And we're nearing the finish line now. Once you start seeing some of these shots finished or near finished, what's your favorite moment or scene that you've seen?
Most people would say one of the big action scenes, right? But mine is the orange eating scene. And that's because it was an early scene we did. And we had Rosa on set, and she took a bite of the orange, and she had this great just little reaction with Kristoff, and a little bit of back and forth, and like she bit the orange, and that type of thing, and her whole body sort of tensed up. And when we translated that into Alita, and we got all the detail in her face, and the wrinkling, and the squinting of her eyes, and the movement of her body, even the little when she did it translated to Alita, and we put it in and watched it the first time and watched it next to Rosa, and it was like, wow, it looks like Rosa, but it's not Rosa. And it really, I don't know, for some reason that moment clicked in my head and all of a sudden turned it around for me and made me think, okay, well, I think we can do this. So I watched a couple scenes with Rosa the other day, right? And first time she's seen them, and she watched them, and she I just watched her, not the scenes, and her face was like moving all over the place. And like, oh, she didn't like it. She didn't like it. And it ended, and she's like, gave me a hug, and she's like, that was me, but not me. It's like, oh, thank God she liked it. And to get an actor to feel that they are a CG character, I mean, that's an accomplishment, I think.
You worked with Weta for a while, and more, recent films like Pete's Dragon, which is one of my favorites, by the way. My wife loves it.
Excellent.
But with things like, I guess, Avatar, you're talking about these digital characters that are intensely performance captured. There's nothing like Alita that we've seen before.
No.
But I am curious, with films like Avatar, what sort of key learnings you got from that helped you make this film?
Oh, I mean, Avatar, we learned a ton, right? Like the amount of detail you have to put into a face to make it look real, the subtleties of motion, when someone blinks, when they squish their eyes, when they do all the subtleties of motion itself. Avatar, we learned a lot from just that, or from muscle connections, knowing that as you twist your arm, these muscles are moving around, or the veins or the tendons in your arm are gonna squish around or change when you change your when you change your fingers, or the pores in your face, or the as you get angry, your face gets redder in here, or it's just all the subtleties we had to do for Avatar, and on this film, because she's humanoid, it had to be tenfold better. Because you get away with it when you have the blue skin and it's not really human. When it has to be human, there's no getting away with anything.
On our wonderful visit here and kind of workshopping, we got to see everything from the virtual camera to the level of animation and detail in Alita. Can you talk about how that will help inform, or a better way to put this is, now that you've done all this design work and there's new technologies and software and processes designed just for this film, if there were to be like another Alita film, is it a lot easier now that you've done that already, or is there new challenges that will present themselves?
We do new technology for every film. So even if we started a new film tomorrow, we would end up starting new technology. It's been 3 years on this film, right? So technology we were using at the start of this film is probably outdated now, and we'd be moving on to a new technology in another year. So because we get to work with people like Jim Cameron and Robert Rodriguez, who always want to push technology, we're always pushing ourselves to get new technology that's going to help us to be more creative or more flexible in the way we do things.
Speaking of Robert, he is no stranger to experimenting with film, whether it's 3D,
He loves it.
VR, or just the style of film. Can you talk about working with him on this project?
Oh man, he is such a creative. It's insane watching his mind work, because he's always working on a new thing. He showed me a trailer on his phone last night at dinner that he's done some new movie with his kid about an immersive VR sort of experience.
The Limit? Is that the
Yes,
one? Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And it's like he's always coming up with new ideas and new ways to push technology to try something new. And I love that, because he's never restricted by just making a film the traditional way, because he's happy to try something new every time.
Awesome.
And this is all new for him. This whole process was a new process for him.